Okay.
Okay, in this session we will discuss about Java arrays. Right, we'll discuss about in detail what is Java arrays, why do we need Java arrays, how can we use that in our daily programming, and what is the advantage of using and any limitations and the right, disadvantage, right? Every somewhere every concept has a pros and cons, means advantages and disadvantages. Okay, like this Java arrays also have advantages and disadvantages that we discuss. Okay, first discuss about what actually arrays in Java. Arrays also is a data type, as we have discussed previous sessions during our data types session. So Java arrays also a data type, but it is non-primitive data type. All non-primitive data types are classes interfaces. So this Java is also a non-primitive data type. So it is also used to hold the values. Any data type is used to hold the value only, right? It's a string, integer, boolean, character, double, float, everything, right? All are used to store to store to hold the data of type, specific type that we declare. Same way, array in Java also used to store data types, but instead it stored the multiple values of same data type. For example, now you have a string, right? String, if you declare a string, you can store string value. You cannot store integer. Or same way, if you declare the variable as int, you cannot store in string values, right? For integer only you have to store integer values. Then, and we don't have an option to store multiple values. Okay, let's take an example, a small thing. Let's create a new package and okay, arrays. Okay, now we have a class. What we are talking about now, I have an integer data type x equals to 10. Okay, comma 20, comma 30, so on like that, right? You see that, is this possible to store multiple values to a single data type? No, we are trying to store multiple values comma separated. However, this data type is a primitive data type which cannot hold this. It is saying this type mismatch cannot convert int array to int, change the type of x to array. So which means any data type, if you declared as primitive data type, cannot hold multiple values, right, of same data type or not. The same data type is the rule that if we declare the data type to a specific type, then we have to store only that type of variables. That is like int int x equals to, I cannot store something value as a string, right? Hello, for example, hello. I cannot store this value because this data type is a string and you should not store the string data type. If integer, you have to store integer values. That is called as the same data type values. So depend on the type you define, you have to store that values. In Java arrays, how it will help us? It is used to store multiple values, right? You store multiple values with comma separated, but should be same data types, right? Right. Now, just now we seen, right? If we have multiple values, it is expected to store multiple values like 10, 20, 30, 40, something. Then this primitive data type, simple data types cannot help us. So that is why Java has created Java arrays. Here, with the help of arrays, we can achieve this to store multiple values. But how do you do that? Storing is fine, but how these things can be retried? These values are storing in the form of index, right? Let's look at this picture. We see this first, if we have array with the 10 size, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 values. Right? If array size is 10, the index starts with 0 to 9, which means 0 to 9 is the count is 10, right? So the value stored in the array is index based. Based on the index, you can retrieve the specific value, specific element, and you can insert the value, you can replace the value at a particular index. So with the help of index, you can access, you can do anything. You can play around with the index if you know that. And if you want to retrieve the element from the specific index from a particular index, then you just pass the index can that. If you want to update, then you can update. If you want to retrieve that, you can retrieve that. And so this is how you can access the elements by using index. It starts with the 0 and length minus 1. Length minus 1, this is a 10, right? 10 minus 1 means 9. The last index is 9. That is the reason we say array size is the size of array minus elements minus length minus 1. Means if we have 20, 20 minus 1, 19. So 0, if we are 0, 19 plus 1, 20. So that is how the array works. Okay, and array is also a data structure. We can call it as a data structure which stores a fixed size sequential collection of elements. Means fixed size means as you declare the array, right, of size 10 or 20 or 30, or no matter what size it is, then that number of elements only you can insert. If you try to insert more than that given size, then you could see you can get the error as index out of bound and exception, which means you are trying to insert the value which is index out of bound. Means you are trying to insert the value in an index, in a particular index which the index is not available in the array. For example, now you have a fixed size is 10. Okay, now I'm trying to insert the value in the index of 10. Now but the index 10 is not there, array is not created the size of 10, then you could say I'm not able to find the place for this element to insert, the index is not available. So the JVM throws during runtime exception as index out of bound exception. So using arrays, this is the problem, high chances, right? We should not use always index based like this. The high chances of exceptions are index out of bound. Make sure we should be careful while working with the arrays. Okay, let's discuss about this in detail later. Okay, it is also a container object, right, that hold the fixed number of values in of a single type, means single data type, and the length of this array is decided and when the array is created, right? What happens when you create an array? Let's look at this now. If you look at this line, if you create an array of size 20, then this length is fixed, mean then you cannot change this during processing or accessing of your array. It will have the problem. It will be the problem. What is that? Index out of bound exception. If it is less than that, if you're trying to access the elements within the range, within the fixed length or within that given length, you are safe. And if you are trying to access out of range, then you will have the problem. You cannot access this one, right? You face errors. Right? What we call as in data in the array are each element in an array, each item in an array is called as a element. That is a data only, but as to call this, we call it as element. And element is associated with the particular index. That index is nothing but a numeric values, right? It's always 0, 1, 2, 3. It does not have any other than the numerics. It's a pure numeric values, not 0.1, 0.2, 1.1. That cannot be. That's not the pure numeric values. Okay. Okay, this array can be used also as static field or local variable or method parameter, which means like other primitive data types. How we are using that primitive data type? Same way we can use this array also. You can declare this static array also, or look, you can have this local array. Even you can pass this array as a method argument. You know the method argument is that if you have a method, for example, like this one. Now if you have a method, right, you can pass this for int array, right, like this. You can pass array of integers like this. You can pass the method argument, and you can have a local array like this, and you can You can have array as a local array. How we have a local variable, right? A local variables, right? The same way, this is also a data type, right? So we can have it as a local or global. It can be a static or method argument or method parameter, right? This way we can use arrays. Okay. Now, I told right, once you declare the size of the array, you cannot alter, you cannot change it. So that's the theoretical part of arrays. Arrays are also data structures which used to store the fixed size. Elements are stored in sequential in the order that is associated with the indexes. And we have two types of arrays. What is this? Single dimensional array, multi-dimensional arrays. We'll see that during hands-on. No worry. Okay. What is a single dimensional array? What is multi-dimensional array? That which is a single dimensional array is not. We can have elements of a single object. Multi-dimensional arrays means array of objects in the sense it is an object, right? It is array is nothing but object. For example, now if we create an array, right? In the array, right? Values, then how you are storing the values here? See, this is right. Anything with the curly braces is a object. Then I can store 1 comma, sorry, 2 comma, 4 comma, 6 comma, 8. So this is called a single dimensional array. If it is a multi-dimensional array, object within the object. Now see this. Now object. Sorry, object. Now I have the one more object. This is one array. Two-dimensional arrays, you will have one more object inside this. Okay, 2, 4, 6, 8. Then we go 4 comma 6 comma 8. You could see this is how you can declare the multi-dimensional array. A single dimensional array is usually with a single object. Multi-dimensional array is multiple objects in a array. So this is a syntax of the array, right? This is the syntax that start with. Inside that, if it is single dimensional array, you can have numbers like the 1 comma 2 comma 3 like this. So this is a 1. If it is a multi-dimensional array, objects inside the root object. You could see this one. If you expand this, say object, right? You see this one. You have this is one array and this is another array. So this is how you can create a multi-dimensional array. Okay, that will do in hands-on. During hands-on, okay, I will help you how this multi-dimensional array works. Okay, let's look at this, the declaring. We already discussed the declaring and initialization differences. Declaring array, you just declare the array of type, what type of values it is going to store in an array. That is called a just declare an array. And if you want to allocate the memory to array, memory is nothing but the size, right? Depending on the size of the object, the memory will be allocated to us. So that is called as allocating. And what is about this combining both statement in one means instead of doing these two steps, you can have this in one line. So if you do this, either this one, right? If you just remove and put down it here, so it is one line of statements. So this is how we can declare it array. Why we, if we have this line, then why we are doing this one? This is a question. But say sometime, right? When you declare an array, you cannot decide what is the fix, what is the size of this during runtime. Depend on the program execution. It can depend on the input that we are supplying. Based on the length of the data, we can pass this length dynamically and create an object. So that will save our code, which means it will be help out of index out of bound exception will not come. So you cannot always decide the fixed length. If you say 100, sometimes it may be more than 100 elements will come, right? Suppose if you say declare 100 size, but you are storing only 2 to 3 elements in the array, that's a waste of memory. So always think about the allocation of memory to the array is always important. So depending on the size of the data, you take that length and allocate that memory or decide the length, how to create an array size. Okay. Now there are advantages and disadvantages also there. What does that? See, using arrays, code optimizations happen, which means you can make the code optimize when you retype or sort any data efficiently. Means if you want to see If you are storing the elements by index base, no, you want to retrieve the element from a particular index. Then if you don't give the index, then the data gets retrieved fast, right? And also if you want to sort the data efficiently, means order of the elements in the array, this array will the good choice. Then sorting of data can be very easily and you can do efficiently. And random access, right? You can, as told you, right, you can get any data located in any index. If you know the particular index, then you see I need element from the index 6 or 7 0 1 what, no, maybe whatever it may be, thus you will get that value, you will get the element, right, quite fast. Yeah, those are main two advantages of using arrays. Let's talk about this disadvantage. There is a limit. There's a limit. We can store only fixed size of elements. It does not grow its size depend on the data that is available there. For example, now you have given a fixed size is 20 and you want to expect more elements to in this array, right? This array will not help, that it will not dynamically grow and shrink. I mean, it is not like no, whenever you need this size, then it will not give you extra memory. It will not let you even to store the elements. So that is the problem with this array. So to overcome this one, we have a collection framework that we'll discuss in the later sections that will help you to grow your size of the object and string depend on the elements that are available. So it automatically, without knowing any size, we don't no need to give any size there in the collections, there it automatically store all the data as expected. So this all about the theoretical part. Now let's go back to this example. Now I told you, right, this is single. Let's start with the single dimensional array. Let's first take the let's take first string only. Okay, string data type. You have to declare that what data type array can hold that string data type. Say I can say skills. Then how you can store that? First thing, as we discussed, we have to insert the size. Why do you want to insert the size? Okay, let's see that. Okay, what happens? Okay, we'll see that index out of bound exception also. String. Now I can say file size. Okay. Now this is how I given a fixed size. How you store the elements? Then skills dot. Okay, skills of what that starts with the 0 index, right? Then first index, it says that I say Java. This is the first element I stored in the array. Then next skills is the object of this array, right? Skills dot, the next first index is the AWS. Then skills of 2 equals to Groovy. Then skills of 3. What the third skill is? You can say Scala. Next skills of 4 equals to MuleSoft. Now we are done. So what is the size of the arrays? Is 5. So 0, 1, 2, sorry, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, which is a 5 elements. Means if you count that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are there. So it start with the 0, right? Yes, this is how you can store. Now if you want to print this, right? If you want to get the data from the particular index, what you have to do? You just call the object and give them index of that, which index, and if you want to expect to get the data from index 2 is Groovy. Then if you're expecting the Groovy, then run on this, you could see it retrieve that specific elements. So this is how you can store elements by index. This is one way. And another way we will see that. First let's look at this index out of exception, right? Skills of, then I'm trying to add a 6th element. The size is 5, but I'm trying to add a extra element which the index is not there, which the size of the array is exceeded. So we'll add this. One thing is Azure. Now what happens, right? First even this statement will not execute. The problem is it is trying to add something here which this guy is not available. There is no space to add a new element. That's why what do you see the exception? Say array index out of bound exception. It's clearly saying index 5 out of bound for length 5. You are trying to insert the element 5, but the length is only 5. This is the sixth element. You see this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is the sixth element, and you have size is only 5. Then if you increase this size, then you don't see that error. Now the error will go off. See, now it is. So this is the problem with the arrays. If you give fixed size, right, then it will not allow you to store the additional data. There is no space, there is no room for the new data. So this is called as index out of bound. When that is coming during runtime, because this is not a compile time, right? Compile time errors are nothing but something like this. So if you see this one, right, all these the errors which are happening during our code implement. This is called a compile time that we'll discuss in depth about the exception handling. Okay, no worry. Now, so this is a runtime exception. Okay, now I told you, right, this is one way of storing that elements based on the index. Now let's have the same thing in one step. How do that? Just create an object with curly braces. Say, just copy all this instead of say Java, comma, and AWS. This is how the values are stored in the array. Right? If you want to see that, let me show you that in debug mode. Okay, now run debug as Java application. Now you could see how the values are stored in the array, right? You see comma separated values. You could see this one. That is the reason these are all the comma separated arrays. List of values with the comma separated. That is the reason we are right initializing the array with comma separated only. Okay, now okay, this is see I just copy pasted, but when it stores in the object you will not have that double quotes. You have to put the double quotes here. Okay, this is one way of, this is simpler way of creating initializing array. So here this saves time. If you know that if you have the fixed number of elements and there is no more element, no other element that need to be stored here, right, then you can go ahead like this. If you are storing the data dynamically, right, then you have to go with the different operators. How you do that? That we will tell that using for loop. So this is one way. Another way of initializing the array. Now you could see this one again, the same thing we run, that you could see the same output. And here also I'm trying to access something which the index is not there. You are trying to access something which it is not there. Say index 7 out of bounds for length 5. So it is always says your length is 5. You are trying to access that data from the index 7. It is out of bounds, means out of size. That is the reason. Okay, now let's see that how you can store this dynamically, all these values, right? Let's see now, let's talk with the integers. Okay, now let's play with the integers now. Integers values. Now I'm creating an object of size in 10 again of 5. Now assume someone is sending the data to this guy. Okay, for int I equals to 0, I less than equals to 5, I plus plus, as we know about the for loop, right? Now what I'm going to say now, values of I'm saying I value is keep iterating. Right, value of I is an index I, then the value I'm storing here. Okay, now at the end just sort values. See, it is index out of bound because we are say less than equal to 5. It starts with the 0, right? It is one index extra, right? The object is created. Now if you want to access a particular value, what is there in the index 4, then you will get that particular value as 4. You can see because we are storing the numbers only here, right? Now let's see that if we give some dynamic value, what we can say that counter. But here you have to change the data type as string, because we are going to store the string data type to see that value, right? you have to make confusion here. So that is the reason I'm taking string. Now the values of the counter, which counter it is a plus I, which means I'm adding I to this counter. Now you could see the clear friends, the counter 4 means it is getting the values from index 4. During debug mode, you can see more in detail how it is this run as debug as Java application. What say this index of 4 means 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 is the counter 4. So this is how you can access the elements from the array. This is called a single dimensional array, where we seen that multi-dimensional array, right? As we created the multi-dimensional arrays used in the programming language in the data structures, or that to help you to organize your data, to write algorithms and so on, so on. So if you have a good understanding of these arrays, you can play around with all these two-dimensional arrays. So for example, right now using two-dimensional array, using 2D array, print matrix form, right? You can say, okay, print matrix data. So this two-dimensional array means then just now we seen that it print the 2D array. Let's talk about this. Okay, let's create two-dimensional array as integers. Okay, values. Then what we can say that is the object 2 comma 4 comma 6. Again one more object 1 comma 3 comma 1 comma 3 comma 5. So now we are done with the initialization. So what is our intention is we have to write a program to print that in the matrix form. We know that matrix form is right. Hello. So we know the matrix form, right? How it looks, the rows and the number of columns, that is called as a matrix form. So using to this, then you have to initialize, declare two for loops and print the data in the matrix form. So how you do that? First you have to take a outer for loop. So you can check the number of elements in that array. So how many times you iterate the outer for loop, it checks you how many times you have to iterate that, and in the inner for loop, and how you are storing the data in the form of object. Okay, let's take an example of this. Okay, I will show you this in simple terms. 7 comma 8 comma 9. Okay, let's take three things. Okay, now I will print this. So let's start for int I equals to 0. So we are starting with the first elements. I less than, we have to say the value start length. What is the length of this, right? I have to loop only up that much. I cannot go beyond that. Okay, this is outer for loop. I have to reiterate this. This is equal to the number of rows in your matrix, and there is the inner for loop. Say int j equals to 0. Then we are taking this equals to the columns, and j less than, and again you have to take the object or element of this first array. What do that? And values of I dot length, because first array, right? We are taking the first array, so that is the reason I dot length. What is the length of this? And then I have to say j plus plus, sorry, okay, j plus plus. Then after that, what you do? You have to print that matrix. Now this is how dot println. It should not be println. It should be in the single line to print the entire row. What is that? First element of I and element of j. Then you give some space, right? Because here we are printing that with the spaces. Otherwise, it will club everything. After all that, once we are done with the current array, right? This object, then you have to print that to next line. So for that, sys out println. Let's this same example. Okay, sys.out.println. Sorry, I have not given this values of it is storing in the value object. Now run as this. You could say this one. It is printing in the matrix form. This is how you can print. Thus, it is a 217. It comes as in the row. Suppose if you want to display this 217 as in the row, then what do you do this one? You just swap this J and say, sorry. Okay. This you can play around with that. So this needs some proper understanding. Say 217. The first element from each array will be the first row, and second element will be the second row, and third element from each row will be the third. And right, this is how you can use our arrays, two-dimensional arrays this way. It is used to organize the data and say, and it is mainly used for algorithms. So this all about arrays. So arrays are mainly non-primitive data types used to store values of same data type. It cannot have a dynamic size. It has always fixed size. And always arrays are used to optimize cores and help you mostly for sorting purposes. Right, like we have number of sortings are there, bubble sort, right, multiple sort, and binary search sort. So everywhere these arrays are come into pictures. Make sure the size of the array, always decide the size of the data during our runtime. Real-time applications, we know the how much data is available, right? After a particular method execution is happened. For example, if a database query is 5 and it is returning some size of the data, right, 10 rows, 20 rows, 30 rows, that size you pass it as a array. Then you cannot decide before that. If you say 10 size of array, then if you have more than 10 records, then you will not be allowed to go ahead. So always think about the size of the array and go ahead. So this all about the arrays. The next session we will see, I will see you about exception.